Welcome to another episode of Sawdust Nation Podcast, episode 47. We have Nick from MPG Creations.
Yep.
AJ from Crafted in NJ.
Yep.
And myself, Josh, from North Country Woodworking. Let's hear from our sponsors.
Hey, we want to give a quick shout out to Merca. I got the Merca on my brain. Merca does not sponsor us, but we want to give a quick shout out to Orca Abrasives for all of their support, as well as Totalboat. Thanks for, being with us along the way. And last but not least, this episode has been brought to you by Jtechphotonics. So give everybody a look-see on the World Wide Web or on the Instagrams. That's all I got for the sponsors, unless, of course, you out there want to become a sponsor, and you can email us at sawdustnationpodcast@gmail.com. We might get back with you. You never know. But anyway, we're going to jump right into what's going on in the shops. Nick, what you got going on in your shop? I'm just playing. Hey, Josh, what's going on in your shop, man?
No, I'm really interested, Nick. What's going on in your shop, dude?
Oh, wow. I'm glad you asked. So, so I've got a couple orders left, a couple Etsy orders I'm finishing up, which isn't too bad of a workload. I've got a display case that's one of those concealment flags, you know what I'm talking about, where people put their pew-pews in there, Anyway, I've got one of those. I'm finishing up. I'm on the last leg of that. I'll get that shipped out. Picking up a whole brand new slew of tools. Nice. It's been one wicked week. Let me tell you, the overarm, the suction arm for the table saw I have that goes from the dust port at the bottom of the saw all the way up to the top and attaches to the blade guard. I've got that now. I just happened to be at Woodcraft and I was like, man, I could really use that. And I'm very
just
weak.
Happened to be there,
dude. I'm a weak
just
man.
Browsing. He accidentally just pulled in, got out of his truck, and walked in.
I'm not going for
realized
anything
where he was and was like, "Oh, that fell into the cart. I need that."
So I had money burning a hole in my pocket, and that's on my to get list. But I first went in there and I was like, "Hey, do you guys have any of the Festool track saws?" And they're like, "No."
Mm-hmm.
Any of the Festool sanders? They're like, no. I'm like, well, shoot. What do you have? They're like, not a lot of Festool, because I guess Festool's all backed up, which I think a lot of companies are all backed up right now. But and then I, shifted gears and moved over into looking at other power tools and things that I was interested in, and they were sold out as well. So I found that hose adapter. It's a piece of pipe. It's like one giant U. Attaches to the rail on the back of the table saw, but it steers clear of the fence when you're moving it back and forth.
Okay.
That was great. And then I saw the Jessem stock guides that attach to the fence, and I've had those on my wish list for a while. And anytime you're pushing a large piece of sheet goods through the table saw, it doesn't always. It's not always staying flush with the fence, or at least it's a pain in the rear to keep it that way, especially if you're manhandling a large piece of flat stock. So I went and pulled the trigger on those too. Easy install, only took about 10 minutes. And
nice. Did you have to drill into the fence for that?
I did. Well, yeah, so I did, but they make, there's plans out there to make, removable jigs, I guess you could say, with earth magnets, because the fence is just one piece of tube steel. It's like, what do you call it? The rectangular tube steel, and it's got everything else on it, paint and the stickers and all that jazz. So it looks like a fence, but it's just, when bare bones, it's a piece of steel. And then my saw blade came in. Well, my dado stack. I ordered the Amanatool. Let me get the proper terminology for it here. I got the Amana 8-inch fine prestige dado set. And it's got that blue coating on it. And to be honest with you, that's the only reason I got it, because I like the color blue. I'm lying. Totally lying. But somebody I know bought my old stack off me. I wasn't certain that it would be compatible with my new table saw, so that's why I ended up getting one that I knew was.
Does that person have a Instagram?
Yes, that person's name starts with a J and ends in Osh. So I don't know.
Jim?
Yes, Jim Osh.
Jim
I
Osh.
think that person you sold it to is still waiting for it in the mail, though. So we'll wait to hear how that ends.
Did you get you got the shipping notification, didn't you? With the
What are you
tracking number?
talking about? Yeah, of course I did.
Okay, well then
It's still in Texas.
It is?
Yeah.
I shipped that like last week. And I shipped it UPS.
Well, Texas is pretty big. I mean, they got it takes a couple days to go
for
from
the
one end
Pony
to the other,
Express. Come on, man.
Well, that's exactly it. Maybe the horse had a cold. Can't run.
Anyway, so yeah, that's
Cool.
my new tools. So, I did
can't
finally
say
get
that word.
I did finally get a new air conditioning for the garage.
Is it one that
explains? Never mind.
What? That explains what?
His hard nipples?
Yeah, exactly what
Yep.
I'm saying.
It's cold in here. It's cold in here. No, I don't have it on right now just because it makes noise and I don't want to put off any ambient sound for the recording. But it's not too hot out. It rained all day today. But yeah, man.
Oh, it was nice here in Jersey, so.
Oh yeah? What's the weather
Yeah,
like
it was
up there?
80, sunny, hot.
It's always
It's just
sunny.
going to get hotter.
That's true. It's true. Anyway, that's all I got. What about you there, Josh? I know I initially led off with you and you kicked it right back at me.
Well, I noticed that you were really excited to get to your shop, so and knowing that you got some cool toys coming in, and did you mention the one, or are you just
No, I have not. I joined the Merca crew. I went ahead
Merca Colt.
So what had happened was I was in a
Had
poker
money burning
game
in your pocket.
What's that?
You had more money burning a hole in your extra pocket.
So honestly, I really didn't spend that much on it because I won all of that money in a poker game last night, and today I pulled the trigger. No, I'm serious.
We do not condone gambling.
It was actually no, it was legal. It was totally legal. I was playing at the casino. So
Nick's casino?
No. It was a casino.
Why does it have a Sawstop banner at the back?
It's called The Casino.
Yeah. So what you guys don't know is I actually run an underground casino in my garage. So the Sawstop, the top flips over into a roulette wheel, and my outfeed table is actually a poker table. So it's pretty in depth. Anyway, so if any
is someone knocking at your door, I hear a knock knock.
It's Josh. He's moving in.
You have enough space for it for sure, especially with that Sawstop. I wouldn't mind taking that for a spin.
Man, you guys are salty.
It's not even jealousy. It's more like envious because I would love to have one so I could put my hot dog on it and try it.
Oh man,
he hasn't even put his hot dog on it.
I did.
Well, he did put his hot dog. He just didn't put the hot dog.
And I had to go to the hospital, and the doctor said I was lucky. So.
I'm not salty about your saw, man. I'm salty about the fact that you have more room and more power.
Room. Yeah, I'm sorry, and more power.
Looking at my workshop, and I was like, man, for the amount of stuff I have in here, I actually have a pretty good walkway. And that kind of led me into what's happening in my shop. So, busy week, a lot of things going on. I got some orders in, I got some orders out. Seems to be the running thing going on in my shop right now.
Mm-hmm.
So good news is I got fed up with having not enough room in the shop or flat surfaces in the shop. So I actually halted everything and just pieced together an outfeed table that would do, threw a nice drawer into it so I can house my laser. And now my laser has a spot. I have outfeed table and it already full. So we're doing really well. It still uses the carcass of one of the
that's a funny word to use.
Movable bench.
Carcass.
And, the wheels, the only thing I did is kind of modify a little bit and, strain some stuff out and, put that drawer in there. Now with some storage underneath, I have my laser in there and, I have something to cut and drop something on. So
where's the Glowforge?
Glowforge is actually right behind me.
Oh, it's inside.
Right there.
Keeping the sawdust away.
Exactly. Glowforge is kind of temperamental when it comes to weather. So when I first got it, I built myself a little table and I got an exterior fan separate from the Glowforge. installed that underneath with the hose going into it and out the window. And then I sealed the window. So it has a wire stopper so no birds or anything get in there, and a one-way valve essentially. So it blows all the fumes out and it will shut when it's not running. That way we can utilize it in the house. It's a lot quieter. You don't smell any fumes. In fact, big news, ladies and gentlemen, my wife made her first project and sale off the Glowforge.
Wow.
So proud of her, and hopefully many more. But going back into the shop, I got the shop project done. I have a couple more shop projects coming up in the future. Just one of those things where I need time to do. And it's going to be like this one was, where I get fed up and just do it. But big things happening. So I don't know if I mentioned it last time or not, but I have 14 signs from a realtor that I need to make. Was 4 down and found I made a spelling error on 1. So now I only have 3 complete. And then I just got an order in of 10 2-foot mallets. Now, the Army squadron, I'm going to say, because I'm Air Force, down the road, has liked them so much, they placed 10 orders of those. So they dropped off the coins and they set a deposit and said, here are the due dates for each one.
Wow.
So
dude.
I'm going to be a mallet making fool and a sign making fool for a little while.
Can I get the plans for those?
No.
Okay.
That is going to keep with myself. I don't mind sharing plans with anybody as long as they use it for their personal use. When they want to use it for anything other than that, then there's a price usually attached to a plan.
Hey, the one that you made me, could I engrave somebody else's logo onto it and then just sell it as my own?
You could absolutely do that if you had a laser.
Oh,
I got a
you
CNC.
got burned. No, actually you didn't, because you don't have a laser. Oh, sick burn again.
That's a double burn.
Wow. That's good.
Anyway, moving on. I got 2 of the boxes done that I needed for a client. I'm waiting for pickup. They're just white boxes, the whole square box thing. They have a hinge and a lock. Nothing too crazy about that. I had a last minute flag order for a retirement gift that they needed by the 24th. And I actually pulled out one of the first flags I made and I showed them and they fell in love. I burnt it at one point in time and had that nice aged look with the Air Force logo. And this is where it gets kind of dicey. They're like, we want his name and date on this flag.
Okay.
Now, if you know anything about CNC work, it can be finicky if you take a finished project and you throw it on there and try to, take a very small stripe and engrave something on it.
Was it finished, like cleared, everything like that?
Yep. Cleared and everything.
Do it with the laser.
See, I was going to do that, but with the finish on it and everything else, I wouldn't have looked right. So, I took the chance and I figured, hey, this has been done already. It's been sitting in the shop. If I mess it up, I mess it up. I need to learn how to do this because I have other flags that might, have to do this later on. So long story short, I put it on there, used the knowledge I've learned for using the CNC. It came out great. And wouldn't you know it, the very next day, I did a Army flag and a Marine flag. They'd probably kill me if I said Army. They went to go pick up, and for some reason, I didn't finish carving the date on there. So I had to do the same process for that flag, but luckily I already went through it, and I was able to finish it and get that sent out. The Air Force flag I mentioned previously, the first one is actually my first shipment to Maryland. So I'm pretty stoked about that. It arrived today, and they should be opening it up here sometime in the near future. Let's see. Yeah, I mean, other than what I mentioned, I have other things going on, but they're in the works. I do have a rush order for a commander that needs to be done by the 24th, and that's a coin holder flag, regular red, white, and blue. But we're going to get that knocked out. I already have it pretty much planned out and just needs to be complete.
Don't you just love rush orders?
I charge now for rush orders. I am busy enough where if they don't want to pay the $25 to $35 extra charge, depending on, then I just can't do it.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things where unfortunately, I'm too busy right now to take too many rush orders, so that kind of prevents that.
Do you
So-
tell them before, like, hey, if you need it soon, it's a
So-
rush order, or you're like at the end when they're like, yeah, that'd be great. What's the price? And then you tell them, and they're like, I need it by this day, and they're like, oh, yeah, there's a rush order for that.
So in this particular case, it was actually the second option you gave, because they came at me a couple months ago and they're like, hey, we're going to have a going away gift for this commander. What are your prices and the sizes? And they actually sent over a picture of American Made Woodworks flags. And the first thing I did is reach out to him saying, hey, this customer is sending your product to me, asking me to recreate it. And I'm like, hey, that ain't cool. Do I have your permission to try to recreate it to the best of my ability? And he's like, you know what? I'm busy enough. Go for it. You have my blessing. So fast forward, they didn't get back to me after I gave my prices and dimensions and everything. And then I don't know, like a week ago, 2 weeks ago, they reached out and said, yeah, we want to go with a middle size flag that you gave us. I'm like, okay, this is this much. And they're like, yeah, we need it by this date. And I'm like, well, I am going to charge you a rush order because I am too busy to fit that in without, making a little more money on it. They accepted, and then they just paid the other day. So I usually don't start woodworking projects unless people pay, because I've been burnt in the past because of that. So now we're, on the 18th right now, and I'll be starting it tomorrow. So that's fun.
Is it going to be your traditional coin flag or one that you're going to do on the CNC?
So it's going to be one I do in the CNC. This
Okay.
particular one is size enough where I can do it in the CNC, and it's going to look like a traditional flag.
Mhm.
But the way I'm going to do it and the way that it's presented is it has a frame around it.
Okay.
So I'm able to use different types of wood that I can use on the CNC, no problem. And it's going to be it's going to look like a traditional flag. It's just not going to be built that way.
Mhm.
So that's the only really big difference in it. And, I've never really put a frame around it. So that's a little new on my end. But I would do a logo for them that would be on there as well, be glued on.
Mhm.
So that's a little different. Usually I have it carved right on the flag, but this is actually going to be a separate piece put on the flag.
Nice.
And then the last project I do want to mention, because it's something that, I like chess. Chessboards are something that I really want to get into doing. I just haven't really had the personal time to do a project like that for myself. I like to do one for my father, my brother, and I.
Okay.
And a customer that actually bought the Air Force flag from Maryland
Mhm.
wants a vertical chessboard.
Vertical.
Vertical. So if you never seen this before, it's easy to Google and you can see what I'm talking about. But basically, it's a picture frame with a chessboard behind the picture frame, and there's little acrylic shelves, and it allows you to play the game vertical.
Oh, wow.
And it's really neat because it saves room, especially like if you're living in like Nick and I's kind of house where you don't have much room or kids. It keeps it out of the way. So like two adults can be playing throughout the day and not having to worry about little Johnny coming over and being like, hey, new chew toy. So I'm pretty excited about that, just because like I've never done it, never thought about doing one, and why not? But enough of me. The world, Nick, my cat Walnut wants to know. My son wants to know. The person listening to this in their car, workshop, sanding, wherever you're doing wants to know.
You're putting a lot on me.
AJ, what are you doing in your shop?
Yeah. And how
A
far
lot.
back is my flag in the queue?
Way far back.
Okay.
I'm probably looking at probably a couple, 3, 4, 5 years back. No.
That's
Is it
fine. You can send it to
5
me as a
years?
retirement gift.
Actually, before I get into my shop, I got 2 questions for both of you. So this first one's going to be towards Nick. Who did you buy that dado stack from Woodcraft?
No, they don't sell Amana products at Woodcraft. I bought it straight up from Tools Today.
Did it come in like a couple days?
So I think it took a little bit longer because it was out of stock when I bought it, but it was like less than 4 days.
Yeah.
So
Their shipping
I was
is
surprised. I came home
incredible.
today actually, and it was sitting on the porch. So
Wow. Nice. And for Mr. Josh, have you ever tried to do any laser work on a finished product that had, I'm guessing, did you use like polyacrylic or some kind of finish like that you spray on, not Odie's?
Yeah, I have before, and it doesn't necessarily turn out bad, but like anytime you laser something, you have a little bit of overburn.
Yep.
Depending if you use masking tape or if you use some kind of something to cover the actual wood piece, you can get away with not. But the laser in the garage is a diode, only 10 watt, and it doesn't have enough power to burn through painter's tape.
Really?
Yes. I guarantee if I turned it up and adjust my settings, I probably could. But in the way I have been engraving since I've had it, I haven't experimented on that end. I usually just clean it up with a little bit of sanding.
Okay.
Or it's clean enough where no one's going to notice.
Yeah,
I don't have to worry about it. But when I'm burning a very large area, say that stripe was, I don't know, say 1/2 inch, maybe it's a 3/4, who knows. That's a lot of burn area and then you have dates and you have the name, full name and rank. That's a lot of space to mess up, and a lot of space that could potentially need sanding and just have to mess with finish.
Yep.
Yeah, I took a risk putting it on the CNC, but I know in the end that it would have been easier to fix a mistake and call it a loss than it would be to have engraved it with a laser.
Yeah.
Try to, fix any kind of mistake, make it worse, and then eventually call it a loss. So, and plus it's a skill now I have. I know exactly how to do it. I use the same little area to carve on my bed. So like it wasn't rocket science to figure out. It was just I was very skittish about it because luckily I had the original design I used to carve it, and that allowed me to, fine tune it a little bit more. But aligning on the bed and with the actual CNC, that was the part I was worried about. But yeah, man.
So, to speak to that, actually, so for a while, what I was doing when I had a lot of time, I was carving some flags with generic designs from my old squadron on them. And I was just holding on to them. They were basically proof of concept at the time. And when people would want them, I would say, do you want your name on it? And then I would go back and I would etch their name on it. But the way I did it, well, I don't know how you did it, Josh, but the way I did it was I would measure the stripe that I'm going to etch on, right? So like length times width. And then I would set my depth and go ahead and put my lettering in there. And, because you build the box in the CAD software and then you center it and all that stuff inside that box. And then obviously you're going to set your bit down, you're going to zero it at the corner of that one stripe, not at the corner of the entire project. So it just makes it a little easier. Unless if you're doing multiple stripes, then you can do a larger area. But I think for like coming behind a project and doing it after the fact, it's easier just to segment it up into smaller pieces and then do little carves, because it doesn't take long to do lettering. Well,
it depends what bit you use.
Yeah,
I'm going to use the
right bit.
Yes.
The 1/32 inch down cut.
To go into Nick's really smart way to do it and my little stupid way to do it. But I had the save project. So I basically, used the corner of the whole entire project to do that flag. That's why I was so nervous. Now, I have done something similar to what Nick's saying on other projects, but it didn't occur to me until he just said it, that would have been a much easier way to accomplish that task. But going to how long it does take to carve a date and a name, it depends on what bit you're using. Now, I don't know about you gentlemen, but I've been using the 30-degree carving bit a lot, and that's what I've been using for most of my writing. It's perfect.
So
it goes
crisp
deep,
and clear, man.
Crisp and clean. You can't beat it. And if you do that and you run it at the same settings I do, that particular task took 15 to 20 minutes.
Wow.
So, yeah. And I'm only going to, 0.02? So I'm not going that deep. So someone could argue 0.01 would have been fine, but I don't know. That 0.02 seems to be that perfect death for me.
Yeah, going on a lighter carve, I learned the hard way, as I mentioned I believe it was last week or the week before. But I had an engraving that I did on a flag for another maker for Bearcountryflags. I always want to say Bear Country Woodworking for some reason. But Chris, trusts me, and I took this flag and wanted to carve out two patches within the union, and for some reason I was using a V bit. It rendered perfect, and actually I was going down, I think 0.05 or something like that, which I didn't think was a lot. You would think 0.05 is nothing. Well, come to find out, it was a lot for that bit. And then I was talking with Josh after I was about to rip out my own hair and just pretty much quit everything. And I picked up the 45611 from Tools Today, and it's a 15-degree engraving bit, and it's a lot pointier and a lot longer than I forget the other one. It's the 30-degree engraving bit, but it worked out fantastic. Anything that I need to do small engravings on, that's the bit that I'm going to start using. And to hit off of Nick's point with doing, individual lines, when I did another flag for Chris over at Bear Country, I had it was a Second Amendment flag, and they wanted the Second Amendment like saying within the red stripes. So instead of making one giant flag, because I think it was a slightly bigger than my whole engraving area, because I think the flag was 36 inches wide, and I think that would just make the very edge of my engraving area. And I did individual lines, each one. And it was the easiest way, so I can reference off of that one line, not have to worry about, if I wasn't going to make one stripe, if I was going to be, like half on one, half on the other. So it just gave me peace of mind. And you were talking about doing your corner to zero off. I zero off of my center almost every single time now.
See, that's fascinating to me because I have never done that until, again, recently when I was doing, I think it was, I can't remember. I think it was both the Marshall and the Colonel's piece. With easel, when we do center off center, it goes like, in the X and Y, obviously it goes to 0, and that goes off like your playing area where it renders anything. So it just never occurred to me. And using a round piece that was already carved out, I was kind of stuck not knowing how to get X and Y off that. Of course, I could have measured and got it, but I felt and I saw that you could do it from the center, and it does work. It just only for certain projects for myself.
You got to be dead on the money if you're doing X, Y in the center. And so like, say you make the project, right? X, Y is in the center. That piece doesn't move off that wasteboard until you're done. But you put that piece back on the wasteboard. You put it back on the wasteboard after you're done with it, and you go back to the center. You're going to have a heck of a time finding where that bit exactly, because it might have been like a half a millimeter off to the left or to the right.
You're
and
done.
then, so that's why I always go bottom left of whatever like box or whatever I'm trying, unless it's a circle, of course. If it's like a circle, then I'll do that. But, it's just a bear to mess with that X, Y in the center.
That's why I'm surprised you use it for everything there, AJ. Is there a reason behind that?
It's because the corner, sometimes you can't, like, I don't want to have to look at the point of the tip, the bit, especially if I'm using an end mill. I can center that end mill right over my crosshairs, and I'll measure it out. And if I have, let's say my flag is for some reason 24.25, I'll put that right into my I'll either do it at 24.25, or what I'll do is I'll give myself just a tiny bit of wiggle room, and I'll make it 24. So when you set your project size, I don't go to the exact number, because one, I don't want to run off the flag. I'd rather have it, stay within the whatever project I'm using. But if I have to get the dead center, I'll kind of round a little bit. So like on those stripes, if they were, 13 1/8, I'll just choose 13. I'll split that in half. And then I know I have that 1/16 of an inch on either side to wiggle with.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, whenever I make if going back to that Second Amendment flag, I didn't want the letters to, somehow with the bit, if they went too deep and now it went onto a second stripe, what I did was I left myself even more wiggle room top and bottom of each stripe, because I knew then my lettering would fit perfectly within that, because now I'm learning that you cannot trust the render. One, I knew you couldn't, but I thought it was going to come out close enough. And I have to say, since I've been doing the center, it's helped me out tremendously. And I had the center set even on that other flag with the 2 patches that I screwed up. And I actually moved the flag. What happened was when it got all messed up, my first carve,
Okay.
I needed to reset, and luckily my center mark was still there. Now, that's one thing that I learned the hard way, because I just did some catch-all trays. They came out terrible, and guess where I put my mark? In the center. Well, one of my
if you're carving.
Well, one of my trays was in the center. So what happened was it took my center mark away. Granted, when the CNC got done, it stayed at its home position, at that 0. Problem was, I took the piece off. Now I had nothing to center off of. So I kind of screwed myself, because after I got done with those catch-alls, I didn't square the piece of wood up. So the catch-alls were actually they were going on a slight angle. I wanted to run the profile bit. I couldn't, because I had nothing to reference off of. I find it just a lot easier to just do center, because 1, I know my project will be centered. And 2, I know that I've been getting comfortable with the center. Now, if I used the touch plate, that'd be one thing. I don't. I do everything by eye. And here's one problem. If you do center, make sure you don't hit the Z down too many times, or you'll go right through the project.
Yeah. So, question though. So you don't use a touch plate. So how do you consistently get the same? Say you want to do 2 different passes with 2 different bits. How do you consistently get the same depth, like you're doing your roughing pass and then your detail pass? Do you ever have problems with that? Because I found, like, I use a touch plate, and every time I run, I know that it's going to be the same exact depth if I will it to be, So
one thing I wish this CNC had, and I see people doing it, is not just a touch plate, but what they have is a bit setter. So it'll reference the new height of the Z, or what your bit's at. Because of course, if you're using, let's just say, a V bit, and then you go to an end mill, one's going to be longer than the other. And the way I do it is I don't use the paper method. I do the touch the wood and then hit 0.1 millimeter down extra. So I'm constantly compressing the bit into the wood a tiny, tiny bit. And I could feel it. I could feel when that bit touches the wood, because I put my hand on it and I could feel it touch it. And I'll just push down one extra little nudge, and then I know I'm set. So I do it a little bit different than, they tell you to take a piece of paper, keep sliding it, and as soon as it catches it, then you're set. You could do that. But honestly, I haven't had any real issues. I'm not doing anything real detailed. And usually most of my stuff, well, I'm not doing like 3D or anything like that, but most of my stuff is usually one pass. This flag that I just got done after the screw up flag that is now sitting in my basement proudly, I did another flag for Bear Country, and what happened was I had to do 3 different tool paths, 3 different bits, and the same way went for all 3 bits. I touched the wood with the bit and set my Z, because every time you got done, it would go back to XY0. So all I had to worry about was my Z height. I do not move, even if the machine's all the way back and that's my Z 0 position, I will stretch across the machine before I move it X or Y. So at least I know that that's set, that's fine, and then I'll just zero it off the wood again. I kind of just use the wood as my paper. at that point instead of using a piece of paper or a touchpad.
Do you have an issue using the actual touchpad? Or, I mean, like, why? Like, I know you're not using it. You're comfortable not using it. But, like, it seems like you just don't want nothing to do with it.
Because every time I tried, when I first got this machine, the touchpad was a great thing. Everybody loved it. Well, I can't even say that. A lot of people hated it because the macro that was designed into the software was not good enough. A lot of people were having it screw up. And whenever I tried it, it wouldn't work for me. I didn't understand that you actually had to, now I do, but I still won't use it. But I didn't realize that you had to set the thickness of it, set this, set that, how much offset. And there was a lot of stuff you had to set in the background once, and then you're fine because the touchpad is not going to change unless for some reason you change the touchpad. And every time I tried it, I had it dive the bit right into it, where it gouged out the aluminum. I also had it where I didn't realize you had to be almost right on the touchpad to hit it. And then you set the macro, you click start, and it would do its thing. If you're up too high, it won't find the touchpad. So let's say you were 2 inches above the touchpad and you hit start. The way that I was doing it was the CNC Z would drop and stop and then error and then say no touchpad found. It would not continue down until it found that touchpad, which I thought was ridiculous. I thought it would just, you put it over it and it would find it and touch it once it got that connection.
Yeah, because you shouldn't, like, and I don't use the same software you use, but at least for easel, you basically, you put it wherever you're going to use for the depth of the material. You put it in, you plug it in, you attach it to the collet, and you drop it. And basically, it will keep going until it hits that touchpad. And as soon as it hits it, it comes right back up a certain amount, so you can remove it, and then you're good to go. Now, so it's weird how I would say easel, not being a lesser program, but a much cheaper program, is capable of doing that. And yours, being a more expensive program, seems to have an issue. That seems like there's a problem there.
The program that I'm using my program's free. I don't use all the programs that they tell you to use are free. The one that was told from the Millwright group, or the one that Millwright uses, is Open Builds or something like that. If you look on the forums, Open Builds gets such a bad rap. People have error codes. People have CNCs just doing whatever they want. Why did it miss steps? Why did it do this? Why does it do this? I use SourceRabbit. It is a free version. I think they're out of the UK. And every once in a while, they come out with a new update, changes a little here and there. It's basic. I cannot do what you can, and I wish I could with your easel. You can set your speed a little faster or slower while it's carving. I wish I could.
You could use easel. It's available.
I know, but the thing is, I'm so set on SourceRabbit. Once I find one thing that actually works, I like it. That's why I haven't changed back to that's why I haven't even tried the touchpad, because I got so used to just setting it by eye that it's I'm fast with it. I can set it, and that's why probably I screw up a lot, because I don't trust anything else. But I downloaded easel. I wanted to try it and just never did, because it was kind of like, okay, I'm comfortable with this. Let me just use this.
Yeah, fair enough, man.
The only thing that I wish that SourceRabbit would come out with was every time you select a new file to send, you can hit a visualize button. It only visualizes wherever your point is. So your point of start, like your zero. So I center everything that I do. I only see the top right quadrant. That's it. So if my project is all the way left, I have to hope I am picking the right one, because maybe, I saved it as a wrong name, or, clicked on something that I wasn't supposed to, and I'm actually sending the wrong file, which actually happened to me when I was trying to do a 2-foot badge. I selected the small badge of the same badge.
So this is where centering, it might be great, and that's what you're used to, but going that lower left corner might be doing you justice, because it sounds like that program does the same thing easel does. So if the image is big enough and it's centered and 00, it will only detail that, upper right-hand corner because it's not on the work surface. So, I mean, like, you might want to try to, do what you will, man, but it might do you better to use that, left corner.
Yeah, I mean, then you'd see the whole project. My problem with the left corner was, if the wood dipped down a little bit and you're trying to now, because if you got the corner and you're trying to Z.
Can you set your X and Y independent from your Z, or do you have to do all three at the same time?
No, I can set X and Y. So if I can do one button to 0 all three, or if I, because I have done this before where I'll set my X and Y and then I'll have Z off of some, a lower area or whatnot.
Do that for the lower left.
I get what you're saying, but
I just, some of the issues that you've talked over this last, 10 minutes or so, it seems like you could solve by using that lower left. Now you can use the center all day. You've been doing it. You're doing great work. It's not a problem. But in the future, you might have a design where you have to carve away, a certain area, almost like that tray. And now you can't really set a good Z in that center part. So if you get into good practice, maybe change the practice a little bit of doing the lower left, you can see your full design, make sure it's going to come out, the way you want it. You can recognize it, and you can, your X and Y is going to remain the same, and you only have to change up your Z each time. And you can do that wherever you need. Like if you're doing a really fine carve, you can Z it off in that little area, and then it's just referencing that lower left each time.
Oh yeah, yeah.
You can use, like I use Ptreesworkshop's little CNC board, L. And, I use that as my reference corner. And honestly, there's been projects where if I'm doing back to back, I'll use that same reference and I won't even X and Y it because it fits in that corner. And as long as I created a 90-degree corner, that's the same reference point that I'm going to be using, unless it's round or some other weird shape.
Oh yeah, no, I don't know so much about CNCs, and then I'm gonna move on to what was in my shop because I actually never really talked about it. But for my CNC, and it's got an aluminum T-track bed, I always use some sort of spoil board. The problem is I don't use a full spoil board. So I use something, if my project is big enough, I'll put a little piece of spoil board under it to raise it up, because what happened was when my CNC was brand new, the Z height was actually too low, or I'm sorry, the Y rails. Yeah, Y is front to back. Y rails were actually too low. So the gantry was lower than I wanted. So I actually raised the gantry up, and now my Z height is much higher. But the problem is now I can use a spoil board. I'm still trying to find out a good way to do an MDF spoil board so I can still utilize the T-tracks, because they're great with the clamps that I use. I already have an idea about it. Go ahead.
What if you go with a thin piece of MDF?
I can. Most of the time I have to actually do a 3/4 piece. So I have 3/4 sitting in my shop that fits on the CNC bed. Only thing is, hold on, I'm going to probably cut it into strips and strip it. And I'm going to strip with it. And then I'm going to then bolt it down. So then
it sounds like an easy project you can knock out. And
yeah, right. Easy. First I have to go get the MDF I buried somewhere in the back room. But anyway, that's on the projects to do list. But for now, I just throw some pieces of wood under there, usually a piece of scrap 3/4 ply, and whatnot. But with that, the stuff that's going on in the shop is kind of the same old stuff. I got flags, a lot of them, and they're not ending anytime soon, which is fine. Nick's is still on the back burner because everybody else's is on the back burner. As everybody knows, wood has gone up astronomically, and I'm kind of, at this moment in time, I'm trying to utilize the amount that I have before I have to go buy more. And I have kind of no room right now to store anymore. I did put up 2 new lumber racks, and one houses pretty much all of my 2x4s, and another one houses all my cutoffs. So my thought process, and I think we talked about this last time, is I'm actually going to stockpile 3-foot sections and then have them at the ready so they're already cut. And if I want, I can already joint them. So all I got to do is rip them down, and that's it. I may even go as far, if I ever get a time to breathe, I'm going to rip them down and then keep them to the side so I have the stripes at ready. I just pull 13 stripes off the rack, and next thing I know, I got a flag glued up. So I don't have to worry about cutting, waiting for that to dry, and whatnot.
You guys need to take a road trip down here, bro. All of you.
Why?
Because wood, even though it's expensive up there, I know it's expensive up there, but you can get a lot of things a lot cheaper down here. And I know initially I said it was super expensive, but I think that was the one place I went to, and the guy was the salesperson was not telling me the truth about the whole climate of how much wood costs down here. So, but
well, I mean, if you factor in gas, tolls, hotels,
yeah, but at that, I mean,
food,
you might as well just come down here just because there's a woodcraft anyway. I mean, shoot, and you stop in Houston at the Rockler.
Mm-hmm.
It's on the way.
If they give us at least a part of a saw stop, then it'd be worth it.
I mean,
we would be one part,
a quarter of a saw stop every time we visit.
I'll give you one of the boxes it came in, if that's cool.
Wow!
Oh, wow,
man!
I can tape it up and just pretend I have one in the background.
Yeah, just take just cut the cardboard logo out and just plaster it on, paint it.
Put it on your rigid.
You give me a saw stop sticker and I will put it over the rigid logo.
You hear that, saw stop?
Yeah, don't worry, they're tagged in this. So
this is the saw stop challenge.
Saw stop challenge. So with that, I actually have my first weird flag that I have to do. I have to do a 1801 flag. I talked about this last week. It's got 15 stripes, 15 stars, and the gentleman wants a specific marine insignia carved on it. I've never seen this marine insignia before, and I reached out to, I don't remember his name, and this is pretty bad. But our Vector friend,
I've only used him once, so I don't have his name.
And I've been using him like nonstop.
Oh, I do a lot of my own now that I've figured out Inkscape and some other programs.
His name is Johnny Chaps. And
how do you forget that name, man?
I don't know. I do not know how I forgot that. But it is Johnny Chaps. Yeah, I can't remember his Vector place, but Johnny Chaps helped me out multiple times on Vector images, and I gave him the image. He told me, he's like, it's really low quality. He says, if you can find me a better one, please get that to me. Got him a better one. He nailed it through the roof. This thing is immaculate. So I can't wait to carve it. I'm probably going to screw it up, and then I'll have to make a new one. But it's going to have the marine insignia and then also a name added. And this is a rush order. And kind of to hit off of what Nick was saying, when I was talking to the guy, he said this is when his fellow Marine is getting sent off and he needs it by then. So he kind of put it right in the beginning, and I told him, okay, here's what you want and here's how much it's going to be. And I kind of broke it down a little bit and told him, here's how much the flag's going to cost plus the rush. Yeah. And he understood. He's like, no problem. That's fine.
So do you adjust your rush fees depending on the amount of time you're given, or is it one
social status of your customers?
That'd be $1 trillion.
If it was, if somebody said, hey, I need a full kitchen, I would tell them you got the wrong guy. I don't know who you're talking to because I don't know.
I can't build a box if my life depended on it.
You said boxes earlier, and I kind of cringed over here because of the mass amount of struggle that I went through building a box.
I will say, and I know this technique, and not to interrupt your shop talk, but when you build a box, anyone out there,
it should be square.
Build an entire box and then cut the lid afterwards. Just saying. Oh, save you a lot of pain. Just throwing that out there.
Build the box so it has a top and bottom.
Build an entire square rectangle.
Cube. Build a cube.
Yep.
Then run it across the table saw on all four sides with the fence. And boom.
Listen to the smarter man over to my right. He knows what he's saying. Do that.
Right. Well,
I know about it. I've seen it done 1,000 times, but guess who didn't do it?
You.
This guy.
You know what? You know what's terrible though? If you get that box done and it's legit a box, it's square as F, right? And then you run it across your table saw and the fence is crooked.
Yeah.
And you have a crooked top.
Yeah,
It's a feature.
Yeah, it's a feature now.
Yeah. Well, speaking of fences and being not straight, I still have not yet installed those nice 3D printed fence straightening things that I picked up online that I told Josh about for the rigid, because as everybody knows out there who owns a rigid like wannabe cabinet saw, the fence sucks. It's you,
dude. It's so much better than my last saw. I can't say that yet.
Trust me. I kind of went from the same kind of style fence because I had a Cobalt contractor saw. So you actually, yours on the DeWalt, you have a little knob that you could turn and it moves the fence away in two, or you can adjust it from 2 clips. The Cobalt didn't have that. I had to just do it by the clips. And trust me, my mind was, it hurt every time I had to adjust it. And this rigid, you have to kind of just play with it. You have to like stroke the handle the right way. You kind of have to jiggle it a little bit. Remember I told you, you go up, down, up, down, up, down, down?
Yeah, I've done that, and it has never moved on me. It stays in the same spot.
You should see mine.
Maybe because you're just a little bit older and
it did it from
had more
day
uses
one.
and you played with it a little bit longer. Mine's still new and tight, so it just, easy.
Well, that's good. Well, I'm going to hopefully make mine used and tight after I install these printed brackets that I picked up online. They're still in the bag. They're actually out of the box, so that's one step closer that I am.
Hey, that's better than 90% of the tools you have.
You know where the Harvey miter gauge is?
Yeah, in a box under a cat.
It's actually
it's there from last episode.
Yes, it's still in my office from last episode.
You cutting miters on your desk?
Yes, I have miters and spiders on my desk. But anyway, enough of my crap. I got a welcome sign that I have to make. I've been slacking on that. That's actually for a repeat customer. I actually reached out to this guy that to my right, Josh, and wanted to see if he can make something on the Cricut, which I don't know if I'm going to at this point. I think I'm just going to do it the old way just to get this thing out, and it'll be another project at another time.
If you send me the materials, I can make something that you can continuously use, and if you have to make another one, I mean, you don't have to be for that project.
Yeah, no, I'm going to continue to make these welcome signs because, I mean, I sold one already and I have this one that I have to make. So, I mean, they're just like a hot ticket item at this point. I mean, people are wanting them left and right.
Yeah.
And, but no, I'll send you the stuff and I'll send you the letters. And then he's going to try to do it on his Cricut to cut through because I want to make reusable stencils out of I don't
know if I'll do it on the Cricut. I might do it on the laser.
Oh,
so
because I looked up the material.
What are you making it out of? What material?
I think it was Mylar.
Is that like bendy?
It's pretty much what they make the stencil material out of. So it's like that clear plastic.
I looked it up on the Glowforge Q&A, and there's people using the Glowforge to cut out stencils.
Wow.
Now, obviously, I will test that out and make sure there's no house fire before I go full letters. But if that's the case, I can get that done easy. Quick, because cutting something out is a lot faster than engraving on that thing.
Hey,
yeah.
Check this out.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen one of those silicone mats that Woodcraft has or Rockler has? Like just a flat mat. What if you cut this, like the union out on those, and since they lay they lay and bend so well, and then you could just like clamp the corners of it and do your thing. Would that work? Or
no, because they'd be too thick. Because
and they stretch
I like them thick,
too. So
thick with a CK or CC?
CC.
Okay, just needed to clarify that. I've asked multiple people that, and they look at me like I have 3 heads and don't understand the reference. But anyway, besides Nick's thick silicone, the stencil that I need to have made is actually the letters for welcome. Because the last time I did it, I printed them out, laid down some Aura mask, and then actually painstakingly traced them, cut them, peeled them, and then painted. And it's
Why?
Because I had no other way to do it.
You can. I know that you can buy stencils now.
Not big enough. I looked and looked and looked. And ones that I thought were going to be big enough were tiny. I got them from Amazon.
Well, if
And
that's
don't
what
believe
she's
everything
said,
they say.
okay.
Yes. When I opened my package, it was tiny.
You should be used to that by now.
I am. So I wasn't so disappointed.
Wait,
I just
sorry,
went, wow. This
sorry.
looks familiar.
That's a Nick thing. Sorry.
No, it's okay. He goes, oh, wow. Now it goes.
Look, I sometimes wish we post videos of like our recording sessions because the looks that we give each other as we slam each other throughout the episode, it's just priceless.
Yeah. I mean, looks and whatnot, but I mean, if we could say a lot more, it'd be even better.
Looks are priceless.
Well, maybe
but
we'll
for
have an
everything
option
else,
later on.
There's MasterCard.
Yeah,
Yes.
that'd be an option.
And the last project that I'm working on, which is not the last one in the shop, is I'm actually making house numbers for my house. And
I saw that, and that is beautiful. It came out great, man.
well, it's even coming out better because I don't know, were the letters painted yet?
Yeah.
I believe they were. Okay. So I took a piece of spalted maple that I bought from a local guy, Cascade Creations. His name is Bob, real nice guy. But anyway, I bought this piece of spalted maple I used for our wedding, and then I had an extra piece, and we were going over, we need house numbers. So anyway, I drew something up, and we actually were going to do a different style font, and I engraved it, and Kim wasn't home. She was at yoga. I engraved it and looked at it, and I was like, this doesn't fit, the house, and it doesn't fit our personalities because it was very cold. It almost looked like a dentist office number. So it was very, I'd have to show you on a picture, but it was just very generic. And
so that's not the one that you were doing a story about. That's the second version of that.
No, that the one that is on the story is the final. That's the final product now.
Okay, because I'm about to say that doesn't look cool. I thought it was a really great font. In fact, I was going to reach out and see what you were using.
The other one that was used was like a very modern font, and we're both not like that. So I said to her, I was like, we got to find something else. And I've used a font before on a sign that we made for her parents. And I was like, let me just try that. I'll let you know the name of it. I just don't know it off the top of my head. And it came out great. So I actually cleared it with Totalboat Halcyon in satin. And I just laid the third coat on top, let that dry. Now I'm doing the back. And I'm also putting an LED light on top, a one that's going to wire into my landscape lights. So once they kick on, then I'll be able to have that house sign lit up. And I already did some tests and I took some pictures, and let me tell you, it's coming out real nice. I can't wait to get that thing up because, why not even more?
Language, sir.
Oh, why not PO the neighbors?
There you go.
Thank you.
Poo the neighbors. So anyway, yeah, I just got a lot of stuff going on in the shop. Plus cornhole boards. Still haven't touched those.
See, I lucked out. Last year, I made a set where basically it needs to be put together and put some plywood on. And I just got an order that's due in the beginning of June. So I just have to put that together.
I got to speak to the cornhole master because I was watching some of the ACL on
the
YouTube.
Yoda of cornhole.
Yes, old wise one. And I need to know, I've seen the champions using cornhole boards that have an overhanging edged top.
Yeah, those are the regulation ones.
Is that what you did, Josh?
Absolutely not.
But
I was curious about that because all the plans you find online, the skirts or the sides are all flush with the top.
Yes.
So
if it's ACO, you said ACO, right?
ACL.
Or ACL, whichever, they have their own like official cornhole boards. I think they're all half-inch plywood with braces underneath, and the legs go back at a further angle so they don't slide. If you can get the plans for them, it's a solid set. But it's all Baltic birch too. It's all like, I think AA grade Baltic birch.
Wow. So yeah, I mean, they look gorgeous, but I've never seen that overhang before. I've seen actually a gentleman on Instagram. I don't have his name, but I saw he makes them the exact same way. And I reached out to him, to see if he was using any specific plans or whatnot. But I picked up some plans, and it kind of just calls for 3/4 ply. I'm gonna do it the same way I made my own 3/4 ply with 1x3s as a skirt, no bracing in the center, and then just some legs. Kind of easy way.
Practicality states that's probably the best way to go. I mean, you're not altering as long as the front and the rear are the same distance off of the ground, like of the playing surface. It really doesn't matter unless you have a particular customer.
Yeah, I guarantee that your customer is not going to take a tape measure and measure that. As long as it looks about the same and they sit close enough where you put them together. Man, I'm telling you, I have found, and I think we've all learned this, we're much harder on ourselves to get things perfect.
Yep.
People don't see half the stuff that we see.
Oh, yeah. And these, I'm kind of slacking on these because I have to do 2 patches that have to be hand painted. Then also I have to hand stain them for a thin red and a thin yellow line flag. So it's going to be time on the board.
All right. So when you do that, all right, it's that paint. Are you using acrylic?
Acrylic.
So you got to be careful that you don't get too much acrylic on, because the poly is going to keep it down. But the problem with acrylic is if the poly gets worn away, it might peel.
Yep. I think what I'm going to do is, because I actually did spar urethane on my set. That was before I had Halcyon. I think I'm going to go with Halcyon. So I'm going to lay enough coats on top that it will give it a rugged, durable finish on top and hopefully withstand the test of time. Or, while we're here, would you guys think to use a tabletop epoxy?
Not in cornhole boards. I'm sorry. The tabletop epoxy isn't all that expensive, but for the price range I'm giving these things out, especially in today's market where lumber is pretty much gold, I would definitely just use Halcyon. It's a rugged finish, it's a marine quality, and that it withstands weather. It should be perfectly good for a cornhole board.
But if you use tabletop epoxy, right, you're never going to have to worry about anything peeling off of there.
No.
Yeah. You're essentially laying a
right.
layer of plastic on top. So.
Yeah, but I mean, like, essentially for every summer they take it out for 5 uses. Do you really need that? Now, if I was approached by a professional, again, like I was in the beginning, I probably would, knowing that they're going to use that and it's going to be a set they use multiple times throughout the season. But then again, I would charge appropriately for that.
Yeah. Also, you gotta also look at, will they get left out in the weather? That could be a huge factor as well. Because I know Halcyon Halcyon left outside is fine for all weather, but you got to worry about the bottoms too. I mean, they'll absorb moisture.
Well, I spray the entire thing.
I was going to spray. Yep.
Yes.
See, I never sprayed the entire thing. I always hand painted the top and then poly coated it. Never had any issues. But I was using 2x4s and 3/4 inch birch plywood. So.
Yep.
Who knows?
Real quick, one last question. You mentioned about the acrylic paint. Does it stand up to? Because I mean, they're not in the sun all the time, unless, like you said, they get left out. Would acrylic fade faster than an enamel paint?
I don't know. I've only used acrylic paint and spray paint.
Okay.
No,
I never had any problem with it fading. The only thing I had problem with was if somebody was to leave their stuff outside for long periods of time and neglect them, that paint will start to peel.
Okay. What about if it's sealed?
Regardless,
sealed under say Halcyon.
If it's so thick on there, it's so when you put the acrylic on, it's thicker than spray paint. All right.
Oh yeah.
It's goopy. So you got to make sure you spread it out evenly, or else you're gonna have little lumps on the surface of the board. Which, I mean, some people will be like, "Well, that might impact the playing surface," but in all reality,
you're not that good, buddy.
It doesn't really matter for the weekend warrior cornhole player. But the problem with having clumps on there is those clumps, the bags hit them over and over again.
Yeah,
if you leave them outside, it could potentially latch on and especially the duck canvas latch on and just peel it a little bit and then a little bit more over time. And next thing you know, you're getting holes in your picture. I've had issues with acrylic paint in the weather. but I used polyacrylic on mine. I didn't use Totalboat. I never heard of them at that point in time in my life because it was a long time ago.
That's the thing is like we're learning about obviously new finishes, varnishes as we go along. And I think this season I'm going to stick with the Halcyon. I have no reason to believe it won't hold up. I have no reason to believe that I know what kind of surface it leaves behind.
Yep.
How, I could spray it on. It's quick drying, like everything that my last season boards were not. So
yeah.
That's the way I'm going to go with it. I have a couple boards I'm going to be doing, but yeah, that's all I got to say about that.
Yeah, well, I'm definitely going to be able to, at least I'm going to have a piece on my house finally with Halcyon on it. So then I could see how long, I mean, it's going to be out of the elements for the most part, unless we have a driving rain, because it's going to be under the overhang. But, I'm excited to get that thing done. And
I think I'm going to spray a piece of just scrap with some Halcyon.
Put it outside. And
then put some polyacrylic on another piece and then take another piece. And I have some other varnish or finish.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just going to do like 4 or 5 pieces of different stuff I have within the shop.
Yep.
And just see how they hold up during the summer. Obviously it's not going to get cold, but I mean like with rains and like I'll literally just put it in the dirt, see how it goes.
When you're clearing, be aware that droplets of rain might drop from your because I was clearing the house sign outside the other night.
Oh, mm-hmm.
And it just rained. So it wasn't raining anymore, but it was still dripping off my roof. And I didn't realize that I heard it hit and literally this splatter of water was sitting on top of wet Halcyon. Luckily, I was able to get it off. All I did was just dab it with a shop towel and then just spray it again. And you'd never even know it was there.
Yeah, Halcyon's very forgiving. And thank God, because I know one of the biggest issues when we started this journey was finishing. And when I would finish, something always, a bug would get in there. It would just start to pour. There was always something that would go wrong. And the project would come out so good. And I'd be like, oh, this is going to be easy. Going to finish. It's going to leave. And then 2 days later, I'm like, okay, finally done because I just messed up 10 times.
Yep.
Halcyon has definitely helped with that process.
That was way early on. I had that happen when I was clearing something on sawhorses outside. I go, beautiful day. Let me just do it. No problem. The second I started laying down clear, there was a bug crawling in it. And it left a trail line right through the poly.
It's like they see you set up outside and they're like, okay, guys, who's going to go? Oh, yep. Fred, your turn.
Yeah, well, with that, I know we talked all about our shops, but
oh no, we talked all about AJ's shop.
Yeah, I apologize about that. I had a lot of questions. I needed answers.
It's all good.
Some good topics. Hopefully, someone took something away from that and learned something.
Yes, actually, one of our listeners messaged me the other day and told us that he bought a Raycon small bandsaw, like a Raycon tabletop.
Yeah,
and he said he never knew the name until the podcast.
That's awesome. Yeah, we're going to talk about people writing in. We just had a individual write into my personal account saying that they love listening to the podcast while sanding. And it was right after that, Nick sent me that message about him getting a new Merca. Mm-hmm. So you never know what people are out there doing listening to the podcast. I mean, appreciate all you guys out there.
Yeah, definitely. Well, with that, as much as we appreciate you, if you listen to us on Apple Podcasts, definitely leave a review, leave us 5 stars. All the other stars are broken. It comes with an error message each time. I've tried, but it doesn't work. 5-star only. And the higher the ratings, then we get pushed out to more people.
That's right.
If you want to send us a message, what's that?
That's right.
That is right. And it is outstanding if you leave us a 5-star review.
I concur.
So if you want to reach all 3 of us, you can reach us on Sawdust Nation Podcast on Instagram. If you want to reach us individually and tell us how good looking we are and how great our voices sound, you can reach us at Josh over at North Country Woodworking. You could reach Hot Dog Hero Nick at MPG Creation, and myself, AJ, over at Crafted and NJ. And I'm going to throw it to Nick because we have to thank some special people.
That's right. We're going to go ahead and thank Jtechphotonics for making this episode possible. Totalboat for hooking it up and all of their support. So go to totalboat.com and check out their stuff for 15% off of your order.
It is.
Use promo code Sawdust Nation Pod. And last but not least, thank you to Orca Abrasives for all of your support. And if you want to buy some abrasives, check them out at their website. It's on our Instagram page, and it's going to be listed here on the podcast page as well, I believe. But the
Yes, we will.
The promo code to save 10% is Sawdust Nation 10. So give them a look-see. They've got some great stuff over there. But last but not least, I want to remind everybody that coming soon is 8 June is going to be our 50th episode. That's 50, right? We are going to rock out with our... What's up?
We're over the hill.
That's
We're
right.
getting over the hill.
That's
Rock
right.
out with our rooster?
No. Anyway, we're going to have
Moving on.
a whole
Okay.
bunch of stuff to give away. That's going to be on Tuesday. We're having a live event on the YouTubes at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. We're going to do so many giveaways from brands such as Woodpeckers, Microjig, Totalboat. What else we got there? Black Diamond Pigments. Rockler even kicked some gift card in. I mean, where does it end? It doesn't end. We have a ton of stuff. So that being said, Josh, do you have anything for the gang here?
No. Thanks for joining us for another wonderful podcast, and hopefully you're out there making some sawdust this week.
Outstanding. AJ, your final thoughts?
Yo, no, just nope. Peacock. That's all.
No bye-byes.
Yes, bye-byes, everybody.
Join us next week, and we're going to have Mike from Veteran Woodco. It's going to be a great time. Mike's a great guy. But until then, take care of yourselves and each other. Sawdust Nation, out.
No.
I totally
Yes. No. It ended recording.
Sawdust Nation, out. You gotta get out.
No.
I'm gonna get something out.
Yeah. His peacock.
We couldn't tell if he took it out if we tried.
I'm just saying, man.
He tags Magnum peacock